Okay, so this last video, I just want to think, well, what would happen if we give uh, if we were able to transfer some money to one of the people, okay? And what's going to happen to our poverty measures, okay? So I'm going to do this in two different ways. I'll first say, well, what if we give to somebody who's right at the edge of the cutoff, and then what if we give to somebody who's who's one of the poorest people in our group, okay? So let's start with saying, well, what would happen if we give $5 to number 6? Okay, so let's do it, and then I will then come back and do the other part. Okay, so what happens if we give $5 to number 6? So now all the stuff I changed, I'm going to do in green. So this person becomes now they have $32 in income, and therefore they are no longer below the poverty line, and so they're no longer below the poverty line, and now this would go away. Okay, and so our head count poverty would now be 5 out of 10. It's now going to be 50%. So our head count poverty would now be 50%. But in reality, there was not that big of change, but in the head count, it's going to look like a big change because people kind of stepped over the line. So if there's a lot of people close to the poverty line and the economy grows, you might see a big change in the poverty rate when actually the change for individuals is not very, very big. I'm not going to go ahead and calculate it for this one, but if we calculate our depth and our severity, they will barely change. So they'll change a little bit, but kind of not very much. Okay, especially the severity is not going to change very much. Okay, but this head count changes a lot. Now, alternatively, let's suppose instead of giving to the person who was number 6, you give $5 to person number 1. Okay, so let me go back to where we were, erase that. Okay, so we're going to give $5 to person number 1. So now person number 1 has $13. And so now they're only 17 below the gap. And the severity is where the biggest change is going to happen. Okay, so for severity, their income went to 13, so they're 17 below. So instead of this was 44 before, and now it's going to be 289. Okay, so the severity is where we're going to see the big change going on here, right? So our head count here, if we go back through, our head count actually is still going to be 6. So it didn't change from where it was before we made this transfer. But so the head count would totally miss this. So the head count will only really count people who are close to the edge and then cross the line, right? Then they'll be counted in the head count. But if people are far from the poverty line, far below, and their income increases, the head count will totally miss them, right? So it's a little bit, it can be quite insensitive to people in very deep poverty having an improvement in their situation if they don't manage to cross the line. And that's kind of a drawback of it, okay? So, but if we do our depth measure, so now our depth is going to change. Instead of being 76, this is going to be 71. Okay, so it's going to 71 over 300, which is 0.2236. And that is quite a bit lower than it was before. I believe it was 0.253. So before it was 0.253. So that was definitely a change. And then our severity measure was 1274 before, and now it's going to be what's going to be, give me 1 second, and now it's going to be 1079 divided by 9,000, and that gives us basically 0.12, and that was, I believe that was 0.142 before. So both of these, even though this one fell and this one fell, even though there was no change in our head count. Okay, and so that's the advantage of this depth and severity measure, is it shows us are people getting close. It doesn't show us how many people are in poverty, but it does show us, are people getting closer to, are the people in poverty, is their situation improving? And this can be very important to have this kind of measure when you're looking at, like, which we're going to talk about in later on in this unit, when you're looking at things like some kind of serious economic crisis or environmental crisis in a place that really affects people's incomes. And so you'll be able to see what's happening. So even if people are not crossing the poverty line threshold, you'll be able to see that they are falling deeper into poverty or that people are coming out. And so remember, closer to zero in these two measures is better. So that means things are headed in a better direction here. And this is more sensitive than just the headcount measure, which would totally miss this situation. Okay, so that's kind of the reason that we bother talking about these. In the learning unit, I'll give you a chance to do some calculations with these so you can get more comfortable.